Let's take our project to the next level by deploying our DAGs now to the cloud. Up till now, we've done everything on our local machine, so I have mine here. And, and it's a good milestone to achieve, but we're restricted by the limitations of said machine. So for example, once our pipelines demand more than what our machines can give, then it's simply not going to run. And if I, for example, shut down my computer or if my computer crashes, then my DAGs will fail to run successfully. So for those reasons, it's beneficial for production level pipelines to run such DAGs in the cloud. And the benefits are numerous. So first, you have scalability. If the compute that is demanded by your DAGs, goes up or down by any degree, your cloud will be able to accommodate those changes. There's also more reliability, more fault tolerance, so there's better upkeep. There's less overhead that you have to worry about, as you'll see later in the demo. And one great benefit is that cloud provides a central workspace that all of your team members can access. So it's a lot easier to collaborate on Airflow projects. And finally, in the cloud, you only pay for what you use, so it's very cost effective. For Airflow, there are a number of cloud platforms that facilitate the cloud deployment for Airflow. The main ones are Google Cloud Composer, Amazon Managed Workflows for Airflow, and Astronomer Cloud. So all of these three are great, and you can use whichever you'd like. For this demo, though, we're going to stick with Astronomer. So Astronomer is a managed Airflow platform. It is very popular in the marketplace, and it's unique in that it is Docker-based. So when you use Astronomer, you essentially run your DAGs in Docker containers. And one thing I really like about Astronomer is that it makes deployment really easy with its Astro CLI. That's something I'm going to show you in a moment. Okay, let's actually get hands-on and deploy our DAGs in the cloud with Astronomer. As you can see, I'm in the Astronomer homepage, astronomer.io, and I'm going to log in. But if you don't have an account, you can create one easily by clicking on Get Started Free. So one thing you should know about Astronomer is that this is a paid service, but there is a 2-week free trial with some free credits. So you have plenty of time and opportunity to play around with it and get a good feel for Astronomer. So I'm going to log in now because I've already created my account. And you should be able to see a dashboard like so. I'm going to create my deployment now, my environment basically for Airflow. And I've created 2 already, so let me create a third. And I'm just going to call this, how do you say it? Orchestrator course. Yeah, I'll call it orchestrator course. I'll leave a lot of the configuration in its default. Maybe I'll just tweak some things here and there. For example, I'm in Europe, so maybe I'll change my region. Oh, one thing I definitely want to change is the runtime. So remember, this deployment is our environment in which our DAGs are going to run. So it needs to be compatible with our current project. And we're running everything in Airflow 2.11. So this deployment has to match that. Currently, the Astro Executor, as you can see here, only runs for Airflow 3. Oh, let me zoom in a bit, actually. There we go. As I said, everything in Astra Executor is just for Airflow 3. So I'm going to use a different executor, let's say Celery. So I get to use the Airflow 2.11 environment instead. Now, besides that, I don't think there's much to change. So I'm just going to create a deployment. Oops. I guess I have to pay to create more than 2 deployments. Let me delete something. That's embarrassing. Let's try that again. And create deployment. Okay, there we go. I'll zoom out just a bit. Now, it's going to take a while to create this deployment. While this is loading or creating, I'm going to point out something that's very important, and that is to have your Docker desktop up and running. So I already have that here. If you recall, basically your Astronomer is Docker based, so everything is running in Docker containers. So you will need Docker desktop. And more importantly, there's one specific setting in Docker desktop that you have to have configured to make this all work. So I'm already on the page, but I'm in settings and in the general section. So if you don't know how to go there, you can just click this gear icon on the top right. So settings and in the general section, and yeah, in the general area, there's an option called use containered for pulling and storing images. You want this option deselected. So I'll repeat that again. You want to not select this option. If you do, then your deployment is just going to fail when you attempt it. I know this because that's exactly what happened to me, and I had to do some troubleshooting. And I found a page in the Astronomer docs that highlighted the same instruction. So please uncheck this if you haven't already. And once you do, you'll be good to go. For now, let's just wait for our deployment to be created. Okay, it's created. So we can now work on step two. This was step one, creating our deployment. Step two is creating our actual project on our local machine, the Astro project. So we have some options here. One is to use the GitHub integration. Not, I haven't pushed this to GitHub, so I'll not use this. There's not an option called migrate DAGs, which apparently will take 60 minutes. Let's not do that. So by default, that leaves me with the Astro CLI, which is about 5 minutes. So here we have the three main commands we'll be needing. I'll just zoom in a bit. First is install Astro. I believe I've already done that, but let me just do that once more, just in case. Okay, so that's done. Now let's move on. Now we are creating our Astro project, and this is two commands in one. Firstly is we're creating our project with Astro dev init, and then the name of our deployment, and then we're entering that directory. So let's do that. If you look to the left now, after that command, you can see that there's a directory called orchestrator course, and we have all these files. Don't get overwhelmed by it. The main ones you're going to need are basically your DAGs folder, your Docker file, because again, this is a Docker-based solution, and then requirements.txt. So that's step two, already done. We've already created our project. Now, all that's left to do is to basically add all the things that we need to make this compatible with our current Airflow project. So firstly, if you open DAGs, the one that we get from our command, we'll see that there's one example DAG script. We don't need this, so I'm just going to get rid of this. And instead, I'm going to replace it with our scripts that we have created. And I'll paste it here. Great. Next is I want to go to the Docker file itself. And the Docker file, by default, is using a specific image. And this image, I believe, is for Airflow 3.0, and we're using 2.11, so that's going to give us an issue. So what I need to do is to replace this with an image for 2.11. I don't know this image by heart, so I'm just going to look it up. So I'll go to Google, and what do I type in? Astronomer Airflow 2.11 image. I'll just click on the first one there is. Okay, this is not helpful. Runtime architecture. There we go. Bit of guesswork, but I got there eventually. So Under Docker registry URLs, there is one image that is for Airflow 2.x. So I'm just going to copy this and go back to my code and replace the default image. So that's great. We're almost done now. One more thing is to go to requirements.txt to provide the dependencies. Now, the deployment that we created in Astronomer already provides us the Airflow environment, so we don't have to include that here. We do, however, have to include the DLT BigQuery installation that we made before. So I need to make sure I get the version right though. So uv pip, pip list, and I'll just search for DLT. As you can see here, we got the version, so I'm going to say DLT, and remember we used BigQuery as well, and I'm just going to copy paste this. No spaces. There we go. So with that out of the way, we have our DAGs, we have our Docker file with the correct image, and we have our requirements.txt. So I might be missing something, but I think we have everything needed for our deployment. So let me actually conclude step 2. So that was basically setting up our Astro project in our local machine. Now step 3 is we want to connect this, what we have here, to this, or should I say this, the deployment that we've created. And that's going to be pretty easy to do. I'm just going to head back to the code, and I'm going to say Astro login, right? So here I can press enter to open the browser. And once I open the browser, all I have to do is provide my information. I will choose not to say my password out loud. Okay, there we go. And now we get a confirmation that our device is now connected. So now that it's connected, we should be able to deploy without any issues. Let's try it. So let me go back to find that deployment command. That's this one, astro deploy --dags, paste, and let's see. Okay, so it looks like looks like we got an error, or not an error, but a message. Project directory has uncommitted changes. Use astro deploy deployment ID -f to force deploy. I mean, that works for me. I mean, at least for this demo, it's fine. So deployment ID in this case is a placeholder. We have to find the actual deployment ID in our case. So let me go back. And somewhere over here, yeah. So on the top here, you have this ID field, which provides the ID of the deployment. So I just copied it. I'll paste it here and add a space. Okay. Oh, and I need to get rid of the placeholder. So astro deploy ID -f. So this should work. Fingers crossed. Yeah, this is going to take a while. Let me just fast forward until this is done. So that took a minute, but we have our deployment. Let me copy this URL, which is basically to our web server, our UI, and see what we find. Okay, we see a very similar UI with similar import errors. Let's open this up. Okay, variable BigQuery credentials does not exist, and BigQuery credentials does not exist. Of course, this makes sense because we've only added our Airflow variables in our local machine and not in Astronomer. So we can do that again. So once again, let's go to admin variables. I'll add two Airflow variables. So BigQuery credentials is number one. And if you recall, I'm going to copy the entire JSON file. That's my API key um, from BigQuery, and I'm just going to paste it. And next is my GitHub access token, which I forgot as well. So let me go to my secrets.toml, and I'll just copy that too. Okay, great. So now there shouldn't be an issue. Okay, it's going to take a while for the scheduler to register everything. This time I'm getting the GitHub access token message, but I just provided that, so it should be fine. Let me make sure I spelled it correctly. Yep. Okay, there we go. I was just too impatient. So now we have our DAGs, our sequential and our parallel. So if I run this again, then I should be able to see this um, in BigQuery. So let me first remind myself of what the name of the the destination database is. So it's Airflow GitHub data. So I'm going to run this one DAG once just to make sure that everything is working. And let me delete that database that's already been created just to show that, this is being done through Astronomer alone. Oh, goodness. So here we are at the BigQuery page. I'm going to delete the Airflow GitHub data database, kind of just for demo purposes. So let me head back to our UI, and I'm just going to run this. And now we wait again. Okay, and as you can see, it ran without any errors. Let me just hop over to BigQuery just to confirm. So if I refresh the context, I should be able to see, yep, Airflow GitHub data. And if I open any random table, then yep, we should be able to see all the contents here. So that's it. From start to finish, we have deployed and run our DAGs in the cloud.